Hey, I've received a lot of questions about wanting more information regarding the Faustian Pact. And the Faustian Pact video that we did covers just about everything you would need to know. There are some specifics that could be fleshed out further, and I hadn't considered going that route. I just wanted to let everyone know what a Faustian Pact was and how to break it. But some of the information contained within what the Faustian Pact is of beneficial working for any other magical group or lone sorcerer or magician out there. And the subjects of Egregore came up not too long ago, and I was explaining to someone that the idea of a corporation is the exact same as an Egregore, and in fact most of the legal or legalese or legal speak that lawyers and the such engage in today are actually terms that have not changed or have come directly from occult topics that still exist and were used 1700s, 1800s, so and prior to that as well. So I wanted to talk today about the creation of one of the largest egregores, also sometimes called homunculus, but a homunculus is actually technically different, and that requires both flesh and blood of the magician or working group in order to create and sustain it. The egregore is at first a thought pattern, and then it is brought into usually a clay or earthen, and there's differences of that too, a clay figure that represents its body, but the spirit or the astral entity is birthed first and then brought into a container which will house the egregore until its work is done. The homunculus is born first out of the living ingredients of the people or person involved, and then it is taught what it is going to do. You might say this really makes no difference. It does, and it would take a long time for me to get it all out, but the purpose is the homunculus is meant to be an entity that continues and grows and becomes and progresses. Killing the homunculus would actually, in occult terms, injure the worker or workers who gave birth to the homunculus. The egregore, however, is designed for one purpose and one purpose only, and when that purpose is fulfilled, the egregore is dissolved away, and there's no harm coming to anyone else. The egregore is more of an astral tool. The homunculus is, while it's still an astral tool, is much closer to the physical plane, and there's reasons why you would want that, and there's reasons why you wouldn't, all of which maybe I'll go into at a different time. However, though, getting back to the purpose of corporation, a corporation is a fictitious entity that is created for a singular purpose, and then it is dissolved away when the purpose is done. There is reason to believe that the United States is no longer what we believe it is, that it is now a United States corporation, and that this was done primarily through the Faustian Pact of 1913 and the New Deal. So what this essentially did was the Illuminati created the corporation of the United States. And much like this picture, which is a great picture by the way, really shows that they use the concept of the womb of Gaia, which is the astral plane, and created a vessel or a gestative womb that this being could be created within as they constructed the outlines of its existence. So even though you and I don't necessarily see the corporation, we certainly feel its effects. Now, the corporation was set up that the United States government would run under a secretive order called the Emergency War Act, which would essentially suspend the United States Constitution and would put in a fictitious constitution that could be manipulated by Congress and by other individuals while still maintaining that the original United States Constitution was still in effect. So essentially what they have done is they've created a fictitious entity that is a cuckoo bird, essentially, that has broken out of its shell and pushed the original United States government over the edge of the nest, and then you, the citizen who is in essence the mother, is feeding this imposter bird all your energy and your work and your toil and your sweat, and in essence it grows and grows and grows. Now, an egregore, of course, is meant to be dissolved. So it is firmly within the belief of this order that once they can manipulate what's called the North American Union, that they will fully dissolve the corporation known as the United States. So, in essence, they will dissolve the egregore that we have all been living under and turn us over into another egregore, which would be the North American Union. Question: what can we do? An egregore is only as powerful as those who work with it and those who feed it. So an egregore must be fed. My solution, this order's solution, is that we no longer feed the egregore. How do we do this? We stand absolutely solid in the original concepts of the United States Constitution. So we do not go into the ideas that the United States Constitution is a fluid or living document. No, this is part of the New Deal or egregore of this new corporation of the United States, that the founding documents of it can be changed to fit its new purpose. No, the Constitution, because here's the other thing that people need to start figuring out. Our founding fathers were occultists. They were powerful magicians. Anyone of that time that had the money and intellectual mastertude that these people did were brought up in secret societies, and magic and science were taught side by side. This is one of the things that they've kept from the common people, because magic and science are one and the same. They're the same thing. One is the science of the physical world. They even have physical sciences. The other was the science of the mind and science of the mystic. These things, they did not see separation between. And in fact, there is no separation between these things. It just, you have been taught that there is separation. You understand? So our founding fathers knew that they were creating a type of egregore themselves, but that this egregore, once created, would then die off. It was no longer needed because it had served its momentary purpose. It had given birth to the country of the United States with its own laws, its own constitution, its Declaration of Independence, and then that was done. There was no more progressing, per se. That the document of the United States Constitution should not be changed, should not be infringed. All these things are quite self-evident, and they even state that your happiness, your right to pursue it, your right to life, liberty, all those things are a God-given right. That there is no government or corporation that can give these things to you. That they are humanistically intrinsic. So that is the key. You need to remember that this egregore that we're living under is not what we think it is. Your United States government currently is being co-opted by a fascist corporation calling itself the United States government. If you look at the census form, in fact, the United States is even a copyrighted trademark, which is weird. I don't know if that's full proof of it, but it's definitely somewhere to start looking. My advice is to go back to the original Founding Fathers' purpose and to state that your rights and freedoms are God-given, that nothing and no one can take them away from you. Unfortunately, many of you have been taught to give them up, or you consent to allow someone else to have them. There is an old occultic maxim that still works today, and a lot of people use it without understanding where it comes from. If you are not in control of you, someone else will be. And this is the whole purpose. You have every right to defend and keep those rights, because the Egregore that is now serving its work, which is Illuminati created, cannot grant you those rights, and in essence cannot take them away. You are feeding it your rights. You are basically putting your rights and freedoms up on a sacrificial altar, and you are killing them in the name to make this being, this entity, stronger. Okay? These are things you really need to think about. You also need to think about what kind of egregores you're creating without knowing it, and this is in your own personal life. If this is something people would really like to get into, because this is an important and powerful magical work, then tell me. If I get enough people telling me they want videos on this, I will do a whole video series on creating egregores. And in fact, part of the group working that I am trying to get going with the Assumption of God form is that we can all create one singular powerful group egregore channeled with energy from the deity that you assume. The deity forms you assume, or the form of the deity that you assume, which I guess is singular. So these are things that you should think about. If you have any questions, I get flooded with email, and I do my best to try to answer them. Do your own research on it, but essentially a corporation will be dissolved as an egregore also will be dissolved, and these two concepts are absolutely, positively the same. So, like I said, stick to the original concepts that your rights and your freedoms are God-given, and nothing can take them away from you. However, you can willingly or unwillingly give them away. But because of the wording of the Faustian Pact, all you have to do is reclaim them. That's it. It's that simple. That's why they do everything they can to make you feel as though, A, they don't exist, and B, if they do, then you must have already fallen for the trap and there's no way out. There's always a way out. Always, 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 always. And it is simple. It's reclaiming it. But you've got to mean it with every fiber of your being. And that's just the way it is, guys. All right. United States Government Corporation, look into it. Tell me what you think. It's an egregore.